Hello and welcome. What do Kenyans want from their government, and can they overcome the legacy of post-election violence which tore them apart? A vote is being held next week on a draft constitution which is aimed at healing the divisions. Those rifts have hurt Kenya's progress since the 2007 election that led to the deaths of more than 1,000 people and displaced hundreds of thousands. Rivals Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga agreed to a unity government and are both now backing a yes vote for the draft constitution. While polling shows general support for the document, there is also a vibrant no campaign focused on three main issues: land reform, investigating the legality of past deals; abortion rights, fears of offering pregnancy termination on demand; and Islamic courts, already used by a small minority but questioned as discriminatory. On today's show we ask, how can Kenya resolve its divisions, and would a reformed constitution heal or open old wounds? Remember, you can join our conversation with your questions and comments. You can send an SMS or an email, and we'll also take your phone calls on the show. Well, joining me now from Nairobi is Murshid Abdullah Mohammed, a political scientist and constitutional lawyer serving as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. He supports the draft constitution. With him is Bishop Joseph Metu, National Chairman of the Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Christian Churches of Kenya, an umbrella group representing about 5 million Kenyans. He is part of the No campaign. And from Berkeley in California, I'm joined by Shailja Patel, an author and activist. Ms. Patel is a founding member of Kenyans for Peace, Truth and Justice. Her latest book, Migratude, comes out in September. I want to welcome you all to the show and start off with you, Bishop Joseph Metu, please, sir. I gather this vote is meant to try to heal the divisions in Kenya and bring the Kenyan people together. So I wonder, what is the main reason for your objection to it?
Well, the document has been waited for over 20 years. Kenyans have been pursuing the reform agenda, and they expected a document without contentions and without contentious issues. We raised issues to do with contention, and it looks like the committee of experts did not want to listen to interested groups. And that is why we are objecting to the entrenchment of Qadhi's courts, as you have said, and other issues.
Right. Actually, on that issue of the Qadhi courts, the Muslim courts, the Qadhi courts as they're often called, you're against the idea of having them in the constitution, but I gather they're already in use fairly regularly by a small Muslim minority without any real problems. Why bring up this issue? Why create an issue out of this? Perhaps it could just run as is.
It is not that we are creating an issue. The issue has been raised by the Christian community in the country. And what we have been asking is that they are removed from the document itself and be entrenched under an act of parliament, so that all religions are treated equally.
Okay, well, let me bring in...
So we look at the matter as discriminatory.
Okay, well, let me bring in Murshid Abdullah Mohammed here, sir. And let me ask you, what is your problem with the issue with the constitution? Why not let the issue stand as is? The issue of the courts, of course, there's never been much contention between Muslims and Christians in Kenya. Why the need to include this issue in the referendum for the new constitution? Is it going to divide the population?
First of all, we have not included this as an issue in the constitutional debate. In fact, we take strong exception to the fact which is being projected that the Qadhi's court is a contentious issue. Insofar as the law which has been set up to kick off the constitutional making with the committee of experts, they were given a brief that they have to actually put together a harmonized draft. A harmonized draft here meaning that if matters are not in contention in the current constitution or in the constitution which was coming out of the Bomas draft, which never saw the light of day, and the constitution which was being put together by those who opposed the Bomas draft, and that was what is known as the Wako draft after the name of the AG, there were certain issues which were in contention. I can tell you that the Qadhi's court was not one of the contentious issues because it was prevalent, it is present in all the three drafts, And that therefore the committee of experts did not consider it to be a contentious issue. The fact of putting it on board now as a contentious issue, it's in the tech that it's a way of trying to create a critical mass in order to oppose the constitution.
What about the issue of land provision, Mr. Mohammed? The issue that there should be some looking into the legality of sales. Again, isn't that going to basically stir things up and perhaps cause a greater division?
You see, the only thing which the draft constitution is saying is where there is disposition of public land and not private land or land which is community land. And there has been so much of impropriety in allocation of public land because of patronage powers of the powers that be. And we are getting a window now to redress those defects and see, and Parliament will be empowered to make laws and regulations regarding revisiting the dispositions of public land to question their legality. And if dispositions of land were found to be illegally allocated to people, it's now private property, then it has to be taken back by the government to form back the public land, and those who had that land illegally in the first place will not be protected in terms of the ownership of that land. So it's good for the people.
Okay, let me bring in Shailja Patel here, and thank you for joining us as well. And let me ask you, considering the draft constitution has been approved by both Mr. Kibaki and Mr. Odinga, what credibility does it have in your opinion? The fact that two rivals have come together and tried to get a yes vote on this.
The new constitution is a constitution for the people of Kenya, for the peace and for the prosperity of Kenya. It was promised to us 5 years ago. It has been many years in the making, and it is an idea and a movement whose time has come. The major issues that are really that we really need to consider with the new constitution are it will do away with an imperial presidency. It will impose a series of checks and balances on the executive of Kenya. It will remove the potential for political kleptocracy, whereby Kenyan MPs can vote themselves unlimited pay rises and have exempted themselves from taxes. I gather,
Ms. Patel, that the removal of the imperial presidency, as you describe it, proposes to set up instead something that is actually quite close to what the United States has, with an upper and lower house and representatives and senators in effect. In what way do you think that will be better?
What we saw in 2007 was an election debacle that centered on who would hold the presidency of Kenya. Because the presidency is such a high stakes position, it has unlimited powers. There are no checks and balances on what the president can do. If we had had the constitution in place, the new constitution in place in 2007, I seriously doubt that we would have seen the election debacle and the violence that followed that took us to the brink of civil war.
Okay.
But what the new constitution will also do is enshrine a Bill of Rights for all Kenyans that guarantees fundamental rights and protections: freedom of movement, expression, assembly, the right to emergency health care, protection from police brutality, the right to due process.
Let me bring in Bishop Joseph Metu again here. And so we had an email from a Kenyan, Mohammed Hashim, who wrote in an email saying to us, Kenyans want a new constitution that will bring them together. Those who oppose the referendum are only doing so to counter their political rivals. Now, of course, the polls seem to show a strong favor for the new constitution. In reality, how much resistance do you expect? How much do you expect that no vote to gain traction?
I would say that somebody is trying to cross the bridge before they get to it. It is only the referendum that will prove whether Kenyans really want that new proposed constitution or not. The other issue also that is quite critical is that there are many flaws in the proposed constitution, and the political leaders in this country have agreed that the document is flawed in one way or the other. But what they are not agreeing upon is the mode to correct the flaws. And I would say the yes camp is saying, let us pass the document, then carry out the amendment thereafter. And then the yes team is saying, the no team is saying, let us amend first, then pass it in a yes referendum.
Okay,
that is where the fundamental disagreements are.
Well, let's get in a caller. We have Aaron who's joined us on the phone.
You're going to say something?
Yes, sir, sorry. We got Aaron on the line from Washington, D.C. Let's get his question in. Aaron, what would you like to ask?
I would like to pose a question to the no com. First of all, the former president, Daniel Arap Moi, goes around and lies to the public that they will be kicked out of their land if the new constitution is entrenched. Why do they allow the former president to take over the campaign? Yet he's been there for 24 years and he did nothing, completely nothing.
Okay, Bishop Joseph Metu, that's directed towards you, and I wonder to what degree is tension building prior to this referendum on August the 4th?
I can answer that because the former president is a citizen of the Republic of Kenya. It is his democratic right to do what he's doing as a Kenyan. But at the same time, also, the people in the yes camp who are also in that government, the current president and the prime minister, they served in Moi's government. So you cannot blame Moi for not delivering a constitution. It's Kenyans themselves who need to deliver a constitution to themselves.
Okay, we have...
that is what the preamble says. So
one
they
second,
must
please,
participate.
Let me just quickly ask, Mr. Murshid Abdullah Mohammed, what sort of force do you regard President Daniel Arap Moi to be as he leads the strong push for a no vote?
I think he's doing a disservice to the no vote, because the more he is into it and the more he tries to persuade the Kenyan people to go against the constitution with the record that he's had for the past 24 years, it's actually a boost to the yes vote, because people would go by the rule of the thumb and go against whatever the former president is trying to say. He has no track record of bringing in a new constitution or, in fact, constitutionalism in this country.
We're going to take a very short break here, but I'll get back to Shailja Patel in just a moment. When we come back, we'll also look at the possibility that foreign groups may be involved in Kenya's constitutional decision debate. Don't go away. Welcome back. Kenyans face a referendum on their constitution in an effort to heal divisions created by a violent election in 2007. But how is that vote shaping up? From Nairobi, I have Murshid Abdullah Mohammed, a constitutional lawyer and human rights activist who supports it, Bishop Joseph Metu, chair of the Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Christian Churches of Kenya, who's working against the proposed constitution, and from Berkeley, California, Shailja Patel, who's an author, activist and founding member of Kenyans for Peace, Truth and Justice. Now, before I get back to them, I should point out that one of the issues in this vote is the foreign funding trying to influence it, particularly from the US. Opponents claim that the Obama administration is backing the Yes campaign, although the US government has said it has stopped any funds that may have been misdirected to the Yes camp. On the other side, there are claims that Christian conservatives linked to the controversial American televangelist Pat Robertson are backing the no vote. I spoke earlier with Jordan Sekulo of the American Center for Law and Justice, a group founded by Pat Robertson, and here's what he had to say about their work in Kenya.
Meddling is I think, the wrong word, and people have used these terms because we're very transparent. I mean, my first trip to Kenya, we were using Twitter, we were posting photos on our website. We've never tried to hide the work there, and I think that's why it's gotten so much attention. This isn't covert, this is very public.
Shailja Patel, considering that other organizations are lobbying on both sides of the referendum, is there any reason to be concerned about outside influence, or is it all fair game?
The real issue is that, as I said earlier, this is a constitution for the people of Kenya, by the people of Kenya, of the people of Kenya. The most important thing is for the people of Kenya to read the proposed draft constitution. And the making of this constitution and the lead up to this referendum has seen the largest national civic education program we have ever seen in Kenya. People are reading the constitution on buses and public transport vehicles. They're handing it out at public transport terminals. They're discussing it in bars, under trees, on TV, everywhere, on the streets. This is a constitution that belongs to the Kenyan people, and it is the Kenyan people who have the primary right to read it, to determine based on facts and information, not on myths, not on lies, not on what their pastors tell them, not on what any outside influences tell them, but based on their own knowledge, their own intelligence, their own experience, and armed with the facts, the harmonized draft constitution to cast their vote.
All right, well, let's, Bishop Joseph Metu, there's an email we had from Kenya from S. Abdi Sheikh, who wrote in saying, as the referendum approaches, Old wounds are festering and violence is emerging. The security forces are not disciplined enough to prevent the bloodshed that will occur. I think we have to get back to our guest in Nairobi in just a second. Let me ask you, Shailja Patel, if you think that that's the case, that the wounds are festering and there is a strong chance of violence.
I see that as quite inflammatory, to be honest. We are aware that there has been violence right through Kenya's electoral history, and that violence has been fomented has very specific roots. Often it is excessive police responses to peaceful protest, to peaceful gatherings and to freedom of assembly. We've also had organised militia mounted and armed and mobilised by specific politicians. So to the extent that the government respects the rule of law, allows freedom of assembly, freedom of expression and basic human rights to flourish, and to the extent that the police respect the rights of Kenyans to organise, to gather and to rally peacefully, there shouldn't be any violence.
Now, Ms. Patel, you know, obviously it's been a tough few years for Kenyans in that post-election period. We had an email that came in from a viewer by the name of Wesonga JD. And Wesonga wrote in saying, Kenyans have yet to understand the ramifications of the post-election violence. To date, no one has been prosecuted. How can there be healing without the truth being uncovered and justice? Now, to what extent is the country in need of a truth and reconciliation process, or perhaps a commission, in the same way that, say, South Africa had after the fall of apartheid?
I absolutely agree that there can be no impunity for the crimes of the post-election violence, and Kenyans for Peace, Truth and Justice has been at the forefront of pushing for the Agenda 4 items of the mediation agreement to be fully implemented, and that's why we have been strongly behind the International Criminal Court process when the government of Kenya failed to set up local tribunals to try those who were implicated in the post-election violence. So that process is actually underway. It is continuing. The 10 key architects of the post-election violence will be tried in the international courts. They will not get away with impunity. Okay,
let's get a call in from Saudi Arabia. Good to hear from there. We've got Mohammed on the line. Mohammed, what would you like to ask or say?
Yeah, I'm on the line, Riz.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mohammed Lalit.
Go ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah, my question is, the Qadi's court, it never created any problem during the election trial. Why is it that these people are saying that it's going to create a lot of problem now?
Okay, perhaps Murshid Abdullah Mohammed, I could ask you, sir. Well, you know, our caller is saying that, you know, that he's wondering why there's an expectation of trouble now.
You see, that's the amazing thing, is that in the fight for constitutional reforms in this country to bring in the rule of law and all that, it has never been an issue that we are fighting a sustained issue to get the Qadi's court out of the constitution. Neither were we fighting to remove the abortion clause from the constitution, because it has been with us in more or less the same format as it is being proposed in the current or in the proposed constitution. So what we have been fighting for is, we are fighting tribalism, we are fighting underdevelopment, we are fighting skewed allocation of resources, we are fighting impunity, we are fighting marginalization. These are the issues: rule of law, democratic principles, but we have never waged a constitutional battle regarding the Qadi's court. It is just an issue added on a few more issues which really are non-issues, in order to get a critical mass emotionally charged.
Okay.
So that the idea is to get that critical mass to go out of the debate.
Bishop Joseph Metu, here an email that came in from Saudi Arabia, if I could put this to you, sir, and give you the chance to respond. Syed Ali Nasser Zaidi wrote in saying, the only cure for Kenya is a constitutional pluralism whereby individuals are fully protected against abuses of power. The problem with Kenya is endemic to third world countries. How important do you see this rallying cry? We're hearing from our other guests that the need for individual protection, you know, a change in the system is crucial, and this is the way to go forward.
Well, as a matter of fact, the fundamental issue here is governance and you know, impunity, as my brother has just said. But actually also the point that we've been trying to push forward is the agenda of justice for all people without discrimination. And we looked at everything from that perspective, that we need justice for all and for all people to be treated equally. And I would also want to state this, that there is no religious fundamentalism in this country. There is also no problem between the bad blood between the Muslims and the Christians in this country. It is only because Kenyans had gotten an opportunity to write a constitution of their own that they raised issues about the Kadhi's courts and said the Kadhi's courts is a dispute resolution mechanism of a faith. Okay. And we didn't see the need why it should be entrenched in the constitution.
All right,
so I would say it is from that perspective that the Christians raised that issue.
Thank you, sir. Shilja Patel, I have less than a minute. Let me get your perspective on the issue of what will happen on the morning after the 4th, after the referendum. What sort of picture do you think, what sort of landscape do you think Kenya will be showing?
We have been guaranteed a result to the referendum in 2 days. It is my strong belief that we will have a new constitution by the 6th of August, a constitution that makes women full human beings under Kenyan law for the first time, able to pass their citizenship onto their children, a constitution which guarantees the rights of every Kenyan and gives us a strong, solid basis from which to move forward towards implementing the Kenya we want to see.
I want to thank you very much, Shilja Patel. Also, Bishop Joseph Metu, thank you for joining us, sir. And Murshid Abdullah Mohammed. We had a lot of emails, a lot of participation from our viewers in Kenya and around the world for this show. Thank you. Thank you for being with us too. You can follow the show on Facebook and see what we're up to there. Be sure to give us your feedback on programs and post any questions or comments. On the next Riz Khan show, rising tensions as South Korea and the US flex their military muscle off the Korean peninsula. The North has put its army on standby and is threatening retaliation. Could war erupt in the region again, or is the threat exaggerated? We want your thoughts on that. Of course, you can send in emails and SMS texts in advance and join us live for that show. Be sure to tune in from me and the team. We'll see you next time.